Welcome students. In today's session we will be looking into Geography Unit 3 and Part 2 of it. Here we will be learning about irrigation, types of irrigation. Watering of agricultural plants through artificial means is called irrigation. So plants should be watered, and when they get water by rain, that is natural means. So when you water plants artificially, it is called as irrigation. Being a hot country with seasonal and irregular rainfall, it always needs irrigation to carry out agricultural activities during dry period. So we already know that India has different climates at different places. So during dry times, you need to have irrigation facilities so that plants can grow well. Sources of irrigation. So what are the various ways by which we get irrigated? In India, different sources of irrigation are used depending upon the topography, that is the kind of land form that we are in, soil, rainfall, availability of surface or groundwater, nature of river. So rivers can be classified into perennial rivers. Perennial is when rivers don't dry throughout the year, they are called as perennial, and non-perennial is sometimes certain rivers they will become dry during hot season, maybe they will become less, so that is called non-perennial. Requirements of crops, etc. The main source of irrigation used in different parts of the country are canal irrigation, well irrigation and tank irrigation. Canal. So canal irrigation is the second most important source of irrigation in our country. So canal irrigation, in Tamil we say kalvai, okay. So that kind of irrigation where you dig ditches and through that you send water through pipes, that's called as canal irrigation. Canals are the effective source of irrigation in areas of low level relief, deep fertile soils, perennial source of water and extensive command area. So wherever you have places where the soil is fertile, where the river source is throughout the year it is good, and when there is a huge amount of area to be cultivated, you use canal types of irrigation. The canals are of two types: inundation canals and perennial canals. In inundation canals, in this water is taken out directly from the rivers without making any kind of barrage or dam. So straight away water is taken from the river and used to irrigate the plants, but they don't construct any kind of dams across the rivers. Such canals are used for the diversion. Diversion is changing of flood water from the rivers and remain operational during rainy season. So what they do is they divert the water that they get during rainy season and they operate this even during the rainy season. Perennial canals. These are developed from perennial rivers by constructing barrages, dams to regulate the flow of water. So what they do is they save the water that they get during the rainy season. They construct a dam and they save it. About 60% of the canal irrigated area falls in the northern plains of India. So most of the canal irrigation is being done in the northern parts of India. The next one we come on to well irrigation. A well is a hole or trough usually vertically excavated. Excavated means dug. So how do you construct a well? You dig and take off all the mud that is there. That's called excavated. So what are you excavating? You are excavating the earth for bringing groundwater to the surface. Well irrigation is the most important source of irrigation. It is a clear, dependable and popular source of irrigation in the country. So most of us know well irrigation. Well irrigation is unavoidable in the region of low rainfall and becomes an essential one when the canals and tank irrigation are not available. So mostly when do we use well irrigation? When the region when the place is getting less rainfall, we tend to have well irrigation. There are two types of well irrigation. One is open well, the other one is tube wells. Open wells. This type of irrigation is widely practiced in the areas where groundwater is sufficiently available. So, when the groundwater is enough, that kind of places we use what is called as open wells. All Kinaru, you would have heard this in TV also. The areas are in Ganga plains, the deltaic region of Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri and parts of Narmada and Tapti valley. So, this all falls into the northern plain of India. Tube wells. Tube wells are developed in the areas of low water table. So, much lesser, when areas get very less amount of rainfall, tube wells are used. Sufficient power supply and soft subsurface geological units are needed. Tube wells are predominant. Predominant means they are mostly found in the states of Gujarat, Maharashtra, Punjab, Madhya Pradesh and even in Tamil Nadu. Tank irrigation. Tank irrigation, a tank is a natural or man-made hollow on the surface developed by constructing a small bund across a stream. So, you know what is a tank, right? Even in houses we build tanks, but here this is a huge level tank where it is constructed to supply water. It is used to collect and store water for irrigation and other purposes. Irrigation by tank is a very old system in India. It also includes irrigation from lakes and ponds. So, where do we get from? We get it even from lakes and they also get it from ponds, kulam. The tank irrigation is popular in the peninsular India due to the following reasons. The undulating relief and hard rocks make difficult to dig canals and wells. So, here if you see, when the place that you live in, if it is made up of hard rocks, you know that time it is very tough to construct canals or wells. At that places what they do is they go for tank irrigation. Natural depressions serve as reservoirs. So, naturally if you see certain places there will be like valleys, like depressions, low forms. Those types of places they can even reserve water. Absence of perennial rivers. So, when the place does not have rivers which can give water throughout the year, we can go in for tank irrigation. Impermeable rock structure which do not permit percolation. So, percolation is like liquids, they travel from one surface to the other. So, rock structure will not allow the passage of water or liquids. At that places we use tank irrigation. The scattered nature of population and agricultural fields. So, when the population is scattered here and there, when it is distributed unevenly and even fields are not continuous, here and there you have fields, at that places we can use tank irrigation. Modern irrigation methods. There are many ways in modern irrigation. Among them, mostly practiced in India are drip irrigation, sprinklers, rain gun and central pivot irrigation. So, what are the four types of irrigation we have? Drip means drop by drop. Sprinkle is drops coming out together, okay, sprinkles. And rain gun and central pivot irrigation. Drip irrigation, it was first developed. In this method, water is supplied in the form of drops through nasals are small holes. Water can be saved up to 70%. So, when you use drip irrigation where water comes out drop by drop to the crops, you can save up to 70%, and this was the first type of irrigation that was developed. Sprinkler, in this it is the simplest and easiest method of all. In this method, water is supplied to the field from the source through pipes. So, how does water go to the fields? Through pipes, and those pipes will have small holes, not one single hole, there will be lot of holes in the pipes. So, it can be used in areas of uneven surface also. So, you can use this when the surface is not equal. Even if it is unequal, you can use this type of sprinkler method. Rain gun. Rain gun is used to spread water like rain. Like rain, you know what is like rain, right? So, it can be used to water the crops which grow up to 4 feet. So, when the crops grow up to 4 feet, then you can use this rain gun method where you drop this water from the top. It is useful to irrigate the crops like sugarcane and maize. Maize means chola. Central pivot irrigation. It is also called water wheel and circle induction. It is a method of crop irrigation in which equipment rotates. So what is pivot? Pivot means the central part will be held tight, and that's called as a pivot. Okay. So what will happen is the equipment, it's called water wheel. It will be like a wheel structure. The central part will be held tight and it will rotate like a wheel. Equipment rotates around a pivot and crops are watered with sprinklers. Multi-purpose river valley projects. So valley means pallathakku. Okay, so you should remember pallathakku is when you have two mountain ranges, between those two you will have a depression, a low form, that is called as a valley. It is a scientific management of water resources in our country. Construction of dam across rivers is aimed at many purposes. So we know why we construct dams for storing water. Hence it is termed as multi-purpose. So construction of dam is multi-purpose, and that is why it's called multi-purpose river valley projects. The various purposes of a dam serves are: first, it is used for irrigation, hydropower generation, that is for producing electricity, water supply for drinking and industrial purpose. So from there they produce water supply for drinking as well as for industries. It is used for controlling floods. Which one? Dams. Development of fisheries, so you can develop your sea level also. Navigation. Navigation is from traveling from one place to the other. Generally, majority of multi-purpose projects are combination of irrigation and hydropower. So mostly if you see dams in India, they are used for both the products, both types. One is for irrigation and well as for hydropower, which are the major aims of the projects. The next part we move on to agriculture. Agriculture is a process of producing food for people. Agriculture means vyavasayam. So we are producing food for people, food for cattle, fiber and many other desired products by the cultivation of certain plants and raising of domesticated animals. So we don't only cultivate plants for our use, but even to bring animals. So domesticated animals means animals which are being brought up at home. That's called livestock. Determinants of agriculture. So when can one do agriculture? What are the things that is needed for doing agriculture? Agriculture in India is determined by a set of factors. Some of the important factors. First one, physical factor. You have to look about the relief, that is the kind of place it is, the climate of that place and the soil of that place. Institutional factors. Size of the farm. You need to also study the size of the farm. Land tenure. The land, sometimes lands, in land they will cultivate for a year. Sometimes only small crops can be cultivated. And land reforms. If there are any land changes, then you can go for those factors. Infrastructural factors, whether it is irrigation, power, transport, credit, that is market, insurance and storage facilities. So all this should be there. You should be able to irrigate that land, you should be able to give power to that place, you should be able to transport the things to that place, you must give credit, you must have markets for those, you have to give insurance. Technological factors, high yielding variety of seeds. So once you want to do agriculture, you must use good seeds. Chemical fertilizers are necessary. Insecticides, you need medicines to kill those insects, and you need also machineries. Types of farming. Subsistence farming. A considerable portion of farmers in the country practice subsistence farming. Farmers grow crops with the help of family members and consume, that means they take almost the entire farm produce with little surplus. Surplus means excess to sell in the market. So most of the people in our country, what they do is they do subsistence farming, that is they have a land for themselves, the family members will work in that land, they will cultivate the land, they will use that product that they get for their own use, and little alone they will sell it in the market. Preference is given to food crops. So those type of people, they will only cultivate food crops. In addition to the food crops, sometimes they grow sugarcane, they grow oil seeds, they grow cotton, jute and tobacco are also cultivated. Traditional farming method results in low productivity. So these type of people, they will be doing for years. So they won't go in for modern technology. So they will use only old fashioned technology. So their yield, their produce will be very less. Shifting agriculture. This type of agriculture is performed by tribal people. So people who live on mountains and hills, okay, in a piece of forest land. So they will do this agriculture in forest land after they clear the trees through felling and burning the trunks and branches. So they will cut down the trees, they will burn the trunks and branches, and they will use that place to cultivate their crops. Once they have cleared the forest, crops are grown for 2 or 3 years and the land will get abandoned. So it will be left alone as the fertility of the soil will decrease. We are talking about people who do cultivation in the forest, the tribal people. The farmers then move to new areas and the process will be repeated. They cultivate some grains and vegetable crops using the manual labor. So mostly they will only cultivate grains, okay, and some crops, vegetables for their own use using their own hands. It is also called as slash and burn cultivation. So here if you see, different names are being given for shifting agriculture in different regions. In Assam it is called Jum, in Kerala it is called Poonam, in Andhra Pradesh and Odisha that kind of shifting agriculture is called Podu, in Madhya Pradesh it is called Bivar, Mashan, Penda, Bira. The next type of farming is intensive farming. Intensive farming is an agricultural intensification and mechanization system that aims to maximize yields from available land through various means such as heavy use of pesticides and chemical fertilizers. So intensive means deep. So they use lot of mechanisms, technologies, they use lot of pesticides, they use chemical fertilizers, and they try to get maximum yield produced from that land. That's called as intensive farming. Dry farming. This type of farming is placed in arid areas, arid means dry areas, where irrigation facilities are lacking. So when the area is dry, irrigation, that means water facility will be less. Crops cultivated in these areas can withstand dry conditions. The crops grown generally with the help of irrigation are also grown under dry farming. In such circumstances, the yields are generally low. So what will happen when the place is dry? Irrigation will become less and thus the produce that you get will also be less. Most of the areas under dry cultivation entertain only one crop per year. So what they will do is they will only cultivate one crop for a year. Mixed farming. Mixed farming is defined as a system of farm which includes crop production, raising livestock, poultry, fishery, beekeeping, etc. So here mixed farming is they not only do crop production but they will also raise livestock, that is even domesticated animals they will rear, that is cows, goats and all those things. Poultry, pigs and all those things are called poultry. Fisheries, even fish, bee is tain, okay, beekeeping, etc. Why they do that is to sustain and satisfy as many needs of the farmer as possible. So as much as they can, they will do it for their own good. Terrace farming. This type of cultivation is, the next one is terrace farming. This type of cultivation is practiced especially in hilly areas, so where we have hills, where lands are of sloping nature. So, the land there will have slope nature. The hill and mountain slopes are cut to form terraces. So, what they do is they will cut the hills and the mountain slopes and they will form terrace, and the land is used in the same way as in permanent agriculture. So, they will do agriculture permanently. Since the availability of flat land is limited, where you do not have flat land, in hilly areas you do not have flat land. Terraces are made to provide small patches of level land. So, what they do is small places they will patch up and make it as a plain level land. Soil erosion is also checked due to terrace formation on hill slopes. So, what because there could be soil erosion, because soil can be taken away because of rain and all that. So, they have to check while they do terrace formation. So, these are the types of irrigations and farmings that we have learned for today's class.